I tried to set up a I tried to set up a live stream through OBS, and my computer is not working on OBS. So here we are, coming directly to you through the restream. And I appreciate it if you are joining me at the moment. It may take some people to catch up, so I'm just going to give myself a few minutes here to get collected. But I have to have a conversation with all of you because the Houston Texans are in shambles. Um, the Houston Texans have not only come out of the gate 0-3, not only do they have the worst defense, I'm sorry, the worst offense in NFL history, but now they're having problems with defensive players. They've cut a pretty big free agent acquisition of theirs from this past offseason. The team at the moment is in shambles, as I said. Not only all of that, and we're going to get into that, but also it appears that Cal McNair may be getting sued by his brother, and his brother, Kerry McNair, may be suing the NFL as well. So we have an awful lot to talk about. Give me just a moment. Let me do a quick sound check because this is not how I planned on doing our show today. But let's get into it. So let's start with the Texans versus the Jaguars. My fellow Texan Bloodline host, Scara K, told me this week she wasn't feeling very well, so we're not going to be doing a Texans Bloodline. And I thought to myself, it's probably this team that's making her sick, because that's how I felt when I watched the Texans play the Jaguars this past Sunday. I was really confident this was going to be their get right game. And matter of fact, I think I guaranteed to you guys that the Texans were going to win that game. And because I felt like very confident that they should. 2 years ago, they came out of the gate 0-2. Jacksonville was their get right game. Jacksonville is not world beaters by any means. And so this felt like this is the game that the Houston Texans should be able to make things right. And unfortunately, they did not. Where do I start? Once again, we're talking about the offensive line. The offensive line has been terrible. Once again, 30 year in a row, worst offensive line in the NFL. But we cannot absolve CJ Stroud from some responsibility in this, because he has not been good. The times that he has had time to throw, he's not throwing accurate. And I've been watching all 22 after each game. I felt like he missed some opportunities in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game where guys were coming wide open and he was either just missing them, which he missed some throws in this game too. He missed Dalton Schultz in the end zone. He missed Nico Collins on the first drive of the game. Ended up being a 3-and-out. There were multiple opportunities for this offense to do something. They didn't have anything like we saw, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago where they got to the 1-yard line and couldn't score. But at no point when the offense went out there did you feel like the Texans were going to be able to do anything. Their offense is trash. It is dumpster juice. And everybody's to blame. You know, when I watched the All-22 in this game, nobody was open. The schemes just weren't good. The route combinations didn't make sense. It wasn't good. The Texans are not a good football team, and that sucks. Nick Caley, I've seen memes, people asking for Bill O'Brien back. I've seen posts, everybody saying, Bobby Slowick, please come back. We forgive you. I've seen David Culley. This is the worst Houston Texans offense in the history of the franchise. Just put that into perspective. Like, think how bad this team has been in the past and how bad it has been offensively. The quarterbacks that have been on this team. And yet this season so far, it is the worst offense in franchise history and honestly one of the worst in NFL history. And the defense is being wasted. The defense is giving up less than like 60 points, I think less than 55 points in the last 3 games, and they don't have a win, which makes them one of, if not the only franchise for that to happen. And, I had a bunch of my stats on OBS, which I'm now frustrated. I had some visuals that I wanted to share with you guys. But since I promised this live stream, I needed to make sure that it happened regardless. 0-3 start. Is there any chance that the Houston Texans can bounce back from this? Well, I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to mention that they did go 0-3 in 2018. But the difference is that 2018 team, Deshaun Watson then is a better quarterback than CJ Stroud is now. And I'm not saying that's how it's going to be for the entirety of CJ Stroud's career. I'm not giving up on CJ Stroud. He is culpable in this. I've seen a lot of people say trade him, get rid of him in the offseason. That's silly. That's silly. There's only 32 starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL. And you know what? Some of those 32 are not really starting caliber. They're just in that position. CJ Stroud is still the same guy who took this team from a 4-win team to first place in their division and handily won 2 playoff games. We got to pump the brakes on get rid of him. But the Texans, listen, man, they have to beat the Tennessee Titans this Sunday, because if they don't, they're cooked. And I honestly, after the CJ Gardner-Johnson news came out, and I'll get to that in a second, CJ Gardner-Johnson, before that news came out, I texted Ruben and I was like, hey man, maybe we should start doing shows on the draft. Because that's just how it felt. You have Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts right now are undefeated at 3-0. If that don't hurt, I don't know what does. And this whole, after these last, the first 3 weeks of the season, we're all looking at the offense. We're all saying, hey, who's going to be held accountable? Is it the veterans on the offensive line, like Titus Howard, who had a terrible game? Penalties, getting beat. Ariante Ursary, I'm going to give him a break because he's a rookie, man. He's not supposed to be a world beater. And you put him in an awful position. You get rid of one of the best left tackles in the entire NFL. And you say, hey, Rook, 2nd round pick, come replace that guy. And yeah, the last play of the game, where Josh Hines, he tips the ball, causing the interception. He beat Ariante Ursary. There's no 2 ways around it, man. So this whole time I'm thinking, okay, who's going to be held accountable on offense? Obviously Nick Caley is not going to get fired. He is clearly a Nick Caserio guy coming from the Patriots and then being at the Rams. Is Nick Caserio going to be held accountable? Probably not this season. So I'm thinking something's got to give on this offense. Some changes got to be made. And then the news comes out today. Aaron Wilson was the first to tweet it, that CJ Gardner-Johnson is released by the Texans after friction behind the scenes, trade requests, and criticism of teammates. CJ Gardner-Johnson was the free agency acquisition for the Houston Texans. He was the guy that we felt like was the icing on the cake. It was going to solidify this defense as being the best defense in the entire NFL, if not the one of. And they are, which is crazy. That's why I was not expecting to hear today that a member of this defense that's actually played really well is getting cut. Some details in this story from Aaron Wilson. It says, among the issues that arose around Gardner-Johnson, per sources, criticism of teammates in the secondary, including the size of one player's contract, complaints about his role, including a desire to blitz more frequently, and a trade request, along with him making frequent comparisons to what he was accustomed to with the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl championship squad. There were also a reoccurring tendency from Gardner Johnson to allow game-changing plays, including a touchdown allowed against the Los Angeles Rams to tight end Davis Allen in the season opener that was incorrectly attributed to cornerback Kamari Lassiter, in addition to costly breakdowns against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jacksonville Jaguars. So I want to shout out my boy DJ Bienemy. Brandon Hollum, thank you for joining me in the comments. It says two rebuilds within 3 years is insane. Lions making us look stupid. Listen, I do want to get to that. Let me finish the CJ Garner Johnson story though. So DJ Bienemy actually broke down the play where Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't done anything all season, didn't do anything all game until one of the most important plays of the game. I think he got like a 68-yard catch and run, and it looked like that touchdown was the responsibility of, once again, as the article pointed out, Kamari Lassiter. So Kamari Lassiter's not been looking good, at least to the naked eye. Then we find out, like I said, DJ Bienemy did a very, very great breakdown. If you guys get a chance, go check out his Twitter and follow him. He does a breakdown of that play where it shows clearly that there's two wide receivers. You've got Kamari Lassiter playing in deep coverage. He's not trying to jam the receiver at the line or anything. And then you have CJ Garner Johnson, who's also, it looks like they're playing zone coverage. Their responsibilities, whoever breaks inside is the responsibility of CJ Garner Johnson. And then whoever either runs a go route or breaks outside is going to be the responsibility of Kamari Lassiter. And you can see that Kamari Lassiter understands his assignment. And then out of nowhere, you see him stop and then start chasing after Brian Thomas Jr. But by that time, it's too late. He's wide open, catch, almost took it to the house. But what I did notice immediately, and I thought at the time, oh, there's Kamari not wanting to be accountable. As soon as that play happens, Kamari Lassiter turns around and he's pointing at CJ Garner Johnson like, bro, what happened? And it just looked like maybe there was some miscommunication on that play. But according to this article, that's been happening a lot. It also mentioned in the article that he wasn't picking up the scheme. He was making mistakes in practice. But it says when you see this was D'Amico Ryans, and I noticed this, somebody asked him about the miscommunications on defense because they have had, several big plays given up, even though overall they've been good. It says when you see a big play that happens in our defense, somewhere along the lines, there's a bust in communication. Texans coach D'Amico Ryans said Monday, without naming names. It all starts with communication, and it hasn't been as crisp as it needs to be. So we have to play better on the defensive side. So he knew who he was talking about at that time. And apparently enough was enough. They cut ties with CJ Garner Johnson. It is interesting that this comes around the same time that we heard that Jimmy Ward got a no bill of indictment in his domestic violence case. I don't know if that means he's coming back to the team right away. Don't know what kind of football shape he's in. He was nursing an injury as well. Is he the answer? I was excited to see CJ Gardner Johnson on this team because he's a ball hawk, and I knew he was going to be able to force some turnovers. But that, unfortunately, has not been the case in these last 3 games. He's actually allowed several catches, several big plays, and apparently it's worse than we even thought after looking at the tape. So the offense is trash. There's dysfunction in the defense. Both sides of the ball. What could possibly be worse? Well, I'm so glad you asked. A few days ago, a story came out that Cal McNair's brother, Kerry McNair, hired Tony Busby, of all people, and he sent a letter to Roger Goodell asking for a mediation in the matter of ownership that he feels like he is his right of the Houston Texans. And he's accusing the NFL and his brother, Cal McNair, of colluding to keep him out. He makes quite a few accusations, actually. It says Monday's letter levies several claims against Cal McNair and the Texans, aside from Kerry's exit, which he was at one point an employee or an executive for the Texans, and his brother got him dismissed legally. And he's claiming that the NFL colluded with his brother Cal McNair to make that happen. But according to why am I forgetting Florio's first name? Forgive me. According to Florio, though, Busby alleges the NFL colluded with Cal McNair to harm the interest of Kerry McNair, uh, though that is far from the most explosive allegation. The letter to Goodell claims Kerry was repeatedly silenced regarding his concerns over the Texans' culpability in the Deshaun Watson sexual assault scandal. That scandal included an allegation of rape and 6 counts of alleged sexual abuse. Busby wrote in the letter, Kerry McNair wondered why he could get no response to how the NFL publicly claimed to have initiated a formal investigation, yet never published any conclusions. So not only is he alleging that, he was illegally put out of the Texans organization, but he's making some pretty bold claims here that it may have had something to do with him wanting to be more active and more vocal and more proactive, I should say, in the whole Deshaun Watson scandal, and like basically accusing them of doing a little bit of a cover up. That's not good. That is not the type of headline you want to see the owner of your favorite football team in. That's not the type of headlines you want to see your football team in at all. It's just I am usually the silver lining guy. I am the guy who wants to bring you the positive news, the good news. I don't know what to give you. I really don't. I'm usually that guy. Is there anything left to salvage this season? Well, like I said, you were 0-3 in 2018. You came back from that. This is the AFC South. So I know Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts are 3-0 right now, but how long do you really think that's going to last? The AFC South is going to give you a chance. There's a reason only one team has ever come back from 0-3 and gotten to the playoffs. And there's a reason it was the Houston Texans. The reason it was the Houston Texans is because they play in the AFC South. There's a chance. Brandon, if you're still there, I don't think the Texans are ready to rebuild yet. But they got some work to do. And somebody's going to have to be held accountable. And listen, I'm going to say this for the umpteenth time. First of all, if the offense continues to play the way that they have, Nick Caley's not going to be your offensive coordinator next season. And I don't care who gets to pick the next offensive coordinator. I don't care if it's Nick Caley. I'm sorry, I don't care if it's Nick Caserio. I don't care if it's D'Amico Ryans. Whoever makes this decision needs to make the decision to go get someone with experience, someone who has done this before, someone who's maybe even a former head coach. If there's one mistake D'Amico Ryans has made in putting together his staff, there's no experienced guys on his staff. All the experience they have is the experience they've had with the Houston Texans. I should say no head coaching experience. I'm going to make this comparison over and over and over and over. If you watch my show, if you watch Twin Toros, if you watch Texans Bloodline, you've heard me make it. D'Amico Ryans, being a defensive coach, needs to find his offensive version of what Wade Phillips was to Gary Kubiak when Gary Kubiak was the head coach of the Texans. D'Amico Ryans should know very well the impact of that because he was on that team. And as soon as Wade Phillips was able to give us a great defense to go along with what Gary Kubiak had put together in a really good offense, that's the first time the Texans win their division and go to the playoffs and win a playoff game. That's not a fluke. That's not an accident. Having somebody with experience when you are inexperienced, it's just the smart thing to do. You know, if I was in a job that I didn't have any experience in, the first thing I would do is find some people that I felt like, hey, I can trust this person even though they have more experience to me to still respect my position and allow me to run this team, but still be able to be helpful with and bring that experience to be helpful with the entire team as a whole. I don't know who that guy is. Last year, I recommended Gary Kubiak being the offensive coordinator of this team. I don't know if Gary Kubiak has any interest in coaching. He probably doesn't. My fellow Twin Toro, Ruben Calvillo, he believes the Texans should go after Mike McDaniel, who will likely be fired, if not at the end of the season in Miami, maybe in the middle of the season in Miami, if things keep going as bad as they're going over there, because they're 0-3 also. Whoever replaces Nick Caley and whoever is responsible for it, once again, I don't even care who it is, get somebody with experience. And those are the only things we have left to salvage, honestly. Honestly, if you get to a point where it's going to be impossible for you to make the playoffs, I don't want you to win, 7 out of your last 8 games and think to yourself, "Oh man, I think we figured it out. We don't need to change anything next year." Excuse me. That is the worst case scenario for me. I would almost rather you just tank it, win 4 or 5 games, get a high draft pick, and get yourself your left tackle of the future or your right tackle if you think Ariante Ursary is that. So far, he hasn't looked it, but I'm going to give him some slack once again. Stephen Harris says Nick Caley needs to bring in Mike McDaniel as an offensive coordinator. Maybe he meant Nick Caserio because Nick Caley is the offensive coordinator. Bring in Mike McDaniel as an offensive coordinator. He calls plays in San Francisco. Yeah, they need to bring in somebody with experience. That's what they need to do. Uh, that's all I know, and that's all I really care about. I thought it was a mistake to go your second time hiring yourself an offensive coordinator. I thought it was a mistake for you to hire somebody who's never done this before because Nick Caley looks like he's never done this before. Um, and that's the really frustrating part is because in the first game I hated to even do it, but like that was kind of a built-in excuse. Okay, it's Nick Caley's first game. He's going against who we thought was his mentor, and Sean McVay. But I was talking to Ruben when we were doing Twin Toros, and he brought up that, when Todd Bowles was asked about the offense, he said that wasn't Sean McVay. That looked like New England's offense. Old school. I don't know if we want to call it Josh McDaniels. I don't know if we want to call it not Bill. Well, Bill O'Brien also ran a very similar offense. As a matter of fact, when Titus Howard was asked about this offense, he said it's similar to what he was running when he first got here. Well, we all know how that went. The only reason that offense worked is because Deshaun Watson was incredible and because DeAndre Hopkins was incredible. And for one season, Will Fuller was incredible. So I don't know, man. It's really hard to have to do Houston Texans content in this situation, but you guys know me. Like I said, I am the silver lining guy. At this point, you just got to go 1 week at a time. And the good news for you is you have the Tennessee Titans coming to your house with a rookie quarterback who's not lighting the world on fire right now. But can you score more than 20 points? Like you need to be able to score more than 20 points. I hope. I don't even know. It says Nick Caley don't have no idea how to call plays with no experience. Didn't do it when he was with the Rams and the Patriots. Yeah, that's my point. Neither did Bobby Slowick when he was with San Francisco. Well, when he was in San Francisco, he was the passing game coordinator, but I don't think he called plays. I'm pretty sure that Kyle Shanahan calls the plays in San Francisco and always has. It's tough, man. I think last season we went into the season with way too much expectation. This season, I felt like we were going in with a reasonable amount of expectation, and they have fallen short of even that. Um, it's too early to make judgment on Jaden Higgins, but he's not doing anything. Jalen Noel, every time he touches the ball, something positive happens. So I say try to get him involved more. Your running game is atrocious, and it's not surprising. You have a washed up Nick Chubb as your featured back. Now that's not your fault because you were hoping Joe Mixon would be here. But Ruben brought up a very good point, and I was thinking about it today. As good as this team we say that we hoped it would be, how many positions do you really have solidified for the next 4 or 5 years into the future? We think there's the quarterback in CJ Stroud. We know there's a pass rusher solidified in Will Anderson Jr. I would say we should be very confident about Derek Stingley Jr. On the other side of him, are we 100% confident in Kamari Lassiter? I think that's still wait and see. Every other position, there's a guy there, but is it really solidified? The offensive line, like who on this offensive line can you say for certain is going to be playing on this offensive line in 3 seasons? I can't think of one. You hope Ariante Ursery, but based on their track record with drafting guys, Juice Scruggs looked pretty good his first season. Let's see. The offensive line has been significant weakness, allowing consistent pressure on CJ Stroud and failing to establish a solid running game. You're not lying, bro. And CJ Stroud is getting pressured on 40% of his passes. That's not good. And I said this while I was doing the watch party. And I hope I'm not correct, but I said it looks like we're watching CJ Stroud turn into David Carr in real time. And that's sad. That really sucks. I don't want that to happen to him. And I think there's still a chance to get it right, but it I don't there's one offensive line in my history of watching the Texans that I can remember that struggled to start and then got into a groove as the season went on. That offensive line consisted of Chris Myers, um, Winston, um, Wade. I'm forgetting all their first names now. Uh, I think you still had Dwayne Brown on that offensive line. Maybe I don't know, man. I've only seen an offensive line struggle a couple of games and then get better as they've gone along once my entire life as a Houston Texans fan. Steven, thank you so much for hopping in on this conversation, man. It says the loss dropped the Texans at 1-3, putting them in a difficult position early in the season. I mean, we've already said it. There's only been one team to come back from that and make the playoffs, and it was the Houston Texans. And they were in the AFC South, which I don't know if you caught this earlier, Steven, but the AFC South will give you a chance. I don't think that the Indianapolis Colts are going undefeated, but their offense looks incredible right now. Jonathan Taylor has had, found the fountain of youth somewhere. Daniel Jones looks like Andrew Luck. I just don't think that's sustainable, though. I really don't. So we're going to find out when we get to the game on Sunday, which I will be doing a live watch party for. The reason I did it before was just because I wanted to try it out. It turned out that there were some people watching who couldn't watch the game, so I gave them a little bit of a play-by-play. Had a gentleman watching from Columbus, Ohio, who was a CJ Stroud fan, not necessarily a Texans fan. So it was really fun. So Steven, if you want to watch the game with me next week, man, I mean, we can talk some trash. We can talk shit on on the YouTube channel. Other than that, man, it sounds so cliche, but 1 week at a time. You hope you can beat a rookie and Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans, and then you go from there. We all know what happens after that. You got to go to Baltimore, and if the team that we've seen these first 3 weeks goes to Baltimore, they'll probably lose by 40. So they have a very short amount of time to get things right, man. But as always, man, this is the reason we love football. and we still love this team. It's H-Town till we drown. It's just, it hurts, man, because we've already been through all of the years like this. This was supposed to be one of the years that all of our hard and agonizing service as fans of this team was supposed to pay off. So look, man, Sunday, get your beverage of choice, drink responsibly. Hopefully the Texans will have you drinking in celebration instead of in depression. And let's get together. Let's watch the game together on the YouTube channel. You guys can follow me at Houston Sports State of the Union podcast on YouTube. I am also on X, on IG. I'm on Facebook because I'm old, and I am at Pod Houston. I'm sorry, at Pod Host Nick on TikTok. Steven says the Titans are the trash of the AFC South. We'll find out. It is the Super Bowl of suck this Sunday. Who sucks worse than the other team? That's what we're gonna find out. And I hope you're right, Steven. I hope you get an opportunity to hop in on the live stream. Like I said, please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. I will be doing a Houston Sports State of the Union address tomorrow on all of our Houston teams because it just seems it's not just the Texans, guys. It seems like the city of Houston is cursed this season already. We got bad news about Fred VanVleet yesterday. Obviously, all the news about the Texans that came out today. And the Houston Astros are on the verge of possibly missing the playoffs for the first time since 2016. So I'm going to talk about all of that tomorrow in the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. In the meantime, you guys know what I want you to do. I want you to stay 10 toes down for the H. I love you and good night.